Characters. Who are they? What are they? Who will they become? So much goes into the creation of a character, their backstory, culture, beliefs, image, eye color, description, personalities, and so much more. As readers, we only get a glimpse of what truly goes into each character. So grab a beverage and get comfortable as we explore this episode's character in depth with your host, Madilynn Dale. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 3 of Character Driven. I'm so glad you are back to join me with this new season filled with fun new authors for you guys. Authors I've got to interview or meet before, and I've got to read their books. And this is going to be an exciting new season. And to start us off, I am bringing in an author to chat about a character that I have interviewed and chatted with before. And I'm very excited for y'all to meet him. So without further ado, let me bring him in and allow him to introduce himself.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. My name is Jeff Chapman, and I'm a software engineer by day, and by night I write fantasy fiction and I drink a lot of hot chocolate. My stories range from fantasy to horror, and they don't all end badly. And I have a lot of books, I have a lot of family, and I have a lot of cats. And I have many more books than bookshelf space.
Yes, and speaking of cats, that kind of leads us into the character we're going to be talking about. So tell us about the book and this character. Tell us a little bit about it before we dive into this character's backstory.
Okay. It's a series of stories called the Merliss Tales. And Merliss is the spirit of a young woman that was cast into the body of a cat. So she lives as a cat. And the magic that caused her to be transferred into the cat has given her an extraordinarily long life. So she's living for, say, thousands of years. And she spends most of her time living with a group of people called the Cunning Folk, who are healers, and they also deal with malevolent creatures.
Yes. So go ahead and tell us where the inspiration for her came from.
Okay. Merliss came from a cat that we adopted off the street. One Saturday, this little gray cat showed up in our driveway. And I'd seen her around the neighborhood before, but usually at night, and you can't really see a gray cat in the dark. So this one Saturday, she was in our driveway meowing, and I got a really good look at her and saw that she was starving and sick. So we gave her some food, and then we took her to the vet. And there was nothing really wrong with her other than she had some infections and she needed some TLC. So we had a new cat. So we adopted her and took care of her. And she thrived for a while, but it turned out she was a very old cat. She had quite a few battle scars. She had a notch in her ear. She had a couple of teeth that were missing. So we had her for about 2.5 years and took really good care of her. And she had a really good life for 2.5 years. But anyway, I got this idea of an old soul in a cat's body. And that's where the idea for Merliss came from.
Oh, it's so wonderful that you guys were able to give her a happy, portion of life, no telling what she went through. And then now a piece of her gets to continue on in your stories. So that's even more amazing. What was it like when you first started creating this character? What kind of thoughts and emotions did you have?
Let's see. Well, she was still alive when I first started writing the stories. And I spent a lot of time trying to imagine how a cat views the world. I did some research on, what kind of emotions and what type of senses cats have that we don't have. So a lot of time went into trying to imagine the world through a cat's eyes. And then after she died, it was kind of sad to work on the stories for a while because every time I worked on them, I kept thinking about Smokey. But I got over that and have continued working on the stories, and it's a good way to remember her.
Yeah. And I totally can relate to the grief that comes with losing a pet that you're really close to. It kind of stays even once you kind of move through the heavy portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's always there. Ooh. So tell us a little bit about her role in the stories.
Okay. Sometimes she's the primary protagonist, like in The Great Contagion. The whole story, the whole novel is told from her perspective. In other stories, it goes back and forth between the human characters and her character. Her role is she has some magical ability. Before she was cast into the body of the cat, she was training as a shaman. So she has some knowledge of healing, a lot of knowledge of herbs, and some knowledge of magic. Problem is she can't talk to people. She can talk to other magical creatures. So there are a couple of pukas that live in the neighborhood where she lives.
Yeah.
She has a relationship with them. Her role is to try to guide the people to do what she wants them to do, which sometimes is comic because she can't talk to them.
Yeah.
I try to think from a cat's perspective how we must seem kind of stupid sometimes, and that we don't do what they want us to do, and it must seem obvious to them what we should be doing.
Yes.
So she can help the humans by guiding them to, herbs that they might need. Sometimes she's enlisted the pukas to help her solve problems.
Nice. So her interaction with the other magical beings, are there any that she does not get along with or that just like don't like her?
There are some malevolent creatures that they dealt with. That like there was a snake who tried to eat her, for instance, and she and one of the pukas dealt with that. There was another creature that lived in it was kind of like a giant salamander alligator kind of creature that ate a few people. She had to deal with that one. Let's see what else. Yeah, those were the main ones that she had trouble dealing with. One of the short stories, the first short story I wrote, there was a water white, which was the spirit of someone who had committed suicide, who then came back as a creature that tried to came out of the water as kind of a watery ghost that would try to suck the soul out of people. So that was another malevolent creature she had to deal with.
Ouch.
Yes, it killed them.
Gosh, that does not sound like a pleasant creature. But how does she handle like dealing with some of those creatures? Like, what are some of the methods she uses to take them out?
Okay, so in the instance of the snake, she and one of the pukas, named Slynid, who likes to appear as a stoat, Slynid kind of used her as bait to attract the snake. And the snake came out, and Slynid got in front of the snake, and the snake ate Slynid. But Slynid is able to shapeshift, so it shifted shape inside the snake into a much, much larger creature, which kind of blew up the snake.
That's awesome. Holy cow. That is super awesome.
And then the salamander alligator type creature, it was attacking one of the cunning folk that Merliss lives with. And Merliss jumped on top of it in the water and I think gouged out its eyes or bit its eyes. I can't remember exactly what I had her do. And then that ended up causing the creature to die.
Oh, man. So she's ruthless when she
Yes.
was protecting those. She actually like cares for it and stuff. With her living such a long period of time, do the people around her, they don't live quite as long, right?
No, they live a normal lifespan.
Okay. Does she bond with any of them, or does she kind of like put up a barrier because of knowing that they're going to die at some point and not wanting to go through that loss?
She does bond with them. So, her life is one of perpetual loss.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other magical creatures like the pupas, they don't die.
Okay.
So she can continue a bond with them. The thing is, the people don't necessarily know what she is. So there's always this gray cat living there, from one person to the next. There's always a gray cat, but nobody knows exactly how long she's been there. They just know that she's always there.
Yeah. So I'm going to take us back a little bit. What is it too much of a spoiler to ask what caused her to get stuck in the cat's body?
She was training to be a shaman, and I haven't written the story yet, so it's kind of vague. I have to write this origin story at some point in time. But there was a conflict she had with the person who was training her, the head shaman, and he tried to kill her by casting her spirit out of her, but it accidentally got cast into the body of the cat. And then she, of course, ran off as the cat, and then had to live for a while as the cat, trying to understand how to, see the world through the eyes of a cat.
Wow. So did the spirit of the cat like replace the spirit that was in her body? Like what happened to that part of her? I mean, I'm assuming at some point in time it probably like disintegrated. But like,
yeah, her body would have disintegrated. I mean, the cat spirit is still inside the cat. So she's kind of in conflict with the cat, but her spirit's the dominant one now. So when it initially happened, it wasn't so. So, we had these two spirits kind of warring inside the cat. And also it was really overwhelming for her to suddenly have all these senses that the cat has that she wasn't used to having. So it was quite overwhelming to begin with.
I believe it.
I think it's going to be really interesting to write that story whenever I get around to doing it.
Wow. How did she come to terms with the cat to where they could coexist and like function together?
I haven't written that yet, so I can't answer that really well. At this point, she's kind of in charge. Sometimes she allows the cat to take over, for instance, when she needs survival skills, because the cat has all the fast reflexes and everything. But for the most, and she has to suppress the cat's desire to chase things when she doesn't want it to chase things. When she has something else to do, something better than chasing mice.
Yes. How does she feel about the cat's like diet? Was that a struggle for her to adjust to?
I think originally it was a struggle for her to adjust to. Remember, she was starting out in like a Stone Age, a Stonehenge culture. But yeah, I mean, the diet would have been mice and voles and things like that. So
yeah. Oh, man. What was your favorite scene to write that she's in? Like, it could be anything from any of the books. Do you have one that kind of stands out?
Yeah, what was really interesting to write was a scene where she met one of the old gods. It's Wog, the god of the forest, who appears to her as an inverted tree out in the forest. So yeah, that was really fun writing about how the god appeared in their conversation.
Nice. Let's talk more about her personality. Did you kind of base her personality off of anyone you know?
Well, I tried to base it off of all the cats I know. We have 4 cats right now. So we've had total we've had 6 cats. 2 of them have died, so now we have 4. She's been around for thousands of years, so I've had reviewers say she comes off as being a bit crabby, which if you live that long, you'd probably be crabby too.
Yeah, probably tired of people's crap.
Exactly. She's a bit standoffish. She doesn't like people when she first meets them. So, for instance, the cunning folk have apprentices that work with them. She doesn't like any of the apprentices when they first show up. She's kind of nasty to them. She's very committed, very serious about what she's doing, and she has a strong commitment to the people of the area in which she lives, providing protection from malevolent creatures and providing healing care. So she doesn't tolerate fools.
Nice. What is her biggest experience and growth with her time from start to finish with your series?
Wow. Okay. So what she's learning how to deal with is how the world is changing over time. So, she's been around for so long, and, so the stories I've written so far have been kind of in a medieval setting. The story I'm working on right now is kind of in a Victorian setting.
Ooh.
So, originally the cunning folk were the primary healing medical people in the area. Now she's in a period where the primary medical person is actually a doctor, and the person she works with is considered to be a quack by many people. So, in some sense, her world is declining, falling apart, and fewer people believe in magical creatures, but of course, they're still there. So, I guess that's her greatest fear, is that her world and her purpose are falling away.
Man, that's rough. So are you going to continue her story up into modern times?
There's really no reason why I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I haven't thought about that. I need to go back and finish some stories that I started earlier. But yeah, I could move on into modern times. That would be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah. And I mean, she's going to face some of the challenges that she would face like now, still in that Victorian era, I'm sure. Yeah. Because it's like things start to change and everyone's beliefs change. And that's rough on her. Like, ooh, she's tough though. Sounds like having to live that long and watch everything kind of like change around her. Just the knowledge and everything she's gotten from having to be there. That makes her a strong character, if you ask me.
Yes. So I trained as a historian in college. So I really like the idea of seeing change over time and how someone could like be here but experience all these different time changes.
And she's kind of, since she has a prolonged life, it's almost like she's immortal, but she's not. And that's just, those are always some of the challenges those that live that long have to face. And I like that you've tied that in there and you kind of highlight the struggles she has with it.
Yes.
Is there someone she befriends that kind of leaves a lasting impact on her, whether like in the past or at where you're at with her currently?
Well, definitely the Pukas are leaving a lasting impact on her, and she's with them for so long. Actually, one of the Pukas keeps trying to talk her into leaving the world and moving on to fairy, since one of the Pukas is upset with the way the world is going and wants to move on to fairy as well. But she still feels tied to the land where she is. She has strong relationship with a crow or a raven called Crowless, who has been magically enhanced by someone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a strange friendship, a cat with a raven.
Yeah. Do you think they would want to pounce on them and
well, they talk to each other and they do things together. So. And then she develops strong relationships with a lot of the cunning folk that she works with. Like she'll be with them for 50 years or so.
Yeah. Does she ever go into fairy and come back, or does she just kind of stay away from fairy?
I'm going to write a story where she does go into fairy.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't written that story yet, but yeah, she will go with it.
How does she feel about fairy? Would she be able to live a different life there compared to how she's living on Earth?
She doesn't want to because she feels so tied to the land.
Mm-hmm.
She would feel like going to fairy and staying there would be kind of like running away from her responsibilities.
Mm. Why does she feel like she still has responsibilities, though, if she's been there for so long? Do they just stay, or do they change with every generation that comes through?
She took an oath to be a shaman or healer for the people in this area of land that she lives in. And she took the oath very strongly. And that's one of the things that led to the conflict with the shaman that she was training under. She thought he was violating the oath that they had taken.
Oh, that would make sense. What was her relationship like with that shaman before they had the fallout? Was he close to her, or maybe in some form of like friendship with her?
Actually, she was falling in love with him.
Oh no!
And so then the betrayal was all the worse.
Jaded lovers. Oh man! And he turns her into a cat. Good Lord!
Well, he was just trying to kill her to begin with. He wasn't trying to change her into anything. So.
Wow. So did he not have the same feelings toward her? Like,
he was mainly interested in power. Taking political power in addition to his shamanistic powers.
So what happens to him after he fails to kill her?
He continues on as a shaman trying to develop political power and then eventually dies. Well, she continues on running around in the forest.
Wow. That's intense. But I guess like he kind of got what was coming to him though. And
yes.
She's stuck to live out this insanely long life. Does she have anybody else that she kind of falls for in the story?
Like I said, she has this relationship with Slynid.
Mm-hmm.
Slynid seems to be in love with her. And, he keeps trying to get her to leave and go to fairy. She's kind of not interested in falling in love with anyone after that first relationship turned out so badly.
Yeah.
So.
I don't blame her. But yeah, I don't know, it makes me curious. Like, would she be able to gain kind of like a human-like body back if she did go to fairy?
I don't believe so. I think she's stuck with the cat at this point.
Okay. Man, that kind of like sucks, but and again, she's been like that for so long. I bet being back in a body like a human would throw her off, and she probably wouldn't be able to function normally for a while.
Exactly. She's so used to being a cat now.
Yeah. So where do you see her going in the future? You said you're still working on some stuff and some ideas. What do you kind of have in mind for her future?
Well, after I finish the story right now, the Victorian era one, it's called The Breath of the Sea. Mm-hmm. She's going to get a new person to be the kind of cunning person that she works with. the one that she is working with at the beginning of the story ends up dying, which leaves her kind of with no one and with nowhere to go. But she does find a way to get a new person to work with her. I want to go back and finish up the stories that are connected to Cat She. That takes place when a cat she finds a way to get into the area in which they live, and she has to work to stop the cat she's from coming to where they are. Oh, I didn't talk about this. Such a big deal. There are ley lines that cross the area where they live.
Yeah.
And she can travel along these ley lines through gates that are on top of the doors.
Yeah.
So she knows how to do this. And the knowledge of this has pretty much been lost by the time of the Great Contagion and Cat She stories. But she knows how to do this. And the Cat She's have found a way to travel through the ley lines from a long way away to come to her area. And that's the idea behind that story.
That's going to be a fun one to read.
Yeah.
So lots of excitement.
So there's Cat She, that's the first story, and that's small sub-series. So there are 2 other novels that are going to be part of that sub-series. So I need to finish those.
Yes. Well, Jeff, we have reached the end of our time. So go ahead and tell our fantastic viewers where they can find you in this magnificent book series.
Okay. You can find me on my website at jeffchapmanbooks.com. And you can find the Merliss Tales books on Amazon. And they're part of what do you call it? The Kindle thing where you can read them for free.
Kindle Unlimited.
Yes, Kindle Unlimited. They're part of Kindle Unlimited, and you can find them on Amazon.
Awesome.
And they're also on Audible.
Oh, yay! Even better. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me on the show today.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And remember, it's always time to go indie now.
She brought a forepaw to her mouth and bit until she tasted blood. She held her paw over the pool and watched a few drops fall. The blood dispersed into red threads stretched along the current. She sat on her haunches, her breathing slowed as she relaxed and focused on the water, opening her mind to the elements. Power crept up her spine. The moon showered her with energy from above, soaking through her back. Her mind buzzed, and the cat wanted to run away from all the prickling sensations. The summoning spell was not complex. She had learned it early on in her training to be a shaman, but it required power and talent. Her soul sight gave her an edge. Some acolytes never mastered scrying. It would drain her, but the clues to the future, however obfuscated, would pay for the effort.